Join Mug Club today for $89 annually to support content like this and get access to the entire network. louderwithcrowder.com/mugclub.
Mr. Crowder's indisposed, so I'm back here.
Red Tide's gone away.
Headphones a little bit because it's set to Alex Jones level.
Oh, wow.
Glad to be with you. Thank you to Mr. Alex Jones for filling in yesterday.
Yeah.
You know what? That's my question. Before we move on to anything else, that's my question for you. How did you like Alex Jones hosting yesterday? Comment below. Look, it's a different show. Every now and then, every few weeks, every couple of months, I might need someone to fill in. I have a business to tend to. And, we'll see who we end up getting in this chair every now and then. It's not easy to do.
My blow-up doll, maybe?
Yeah, maybe your blow-up doll. My headphones are a little bit... everything is adjusted to Alex volume, so it's just
now you know why he's so amped up all the time.
You sound a little lower. I sound a lot higher in my headphones than you do.
Well, I mean...
You're also not speaking into the mic like a retard. All right. Before I bring him in, look, we have a lot to get into today. There's the Durham report. Just so you know, it's they chalk it up to missteps. Not yet, Tim. They chalk it up to missteps is what we'll be talking about today. They chalk it up to that. So it turns out everything that they said, not true. We'll get into exactly what they were saying then and what they're saying now. Now, here's the issue with the Durham report. The FBI probe, right? Russia collusion. Let's just use that for those people who aren't familiar. It's election interference. And it's election interference paid for by your tax dollars. Our intelligence agencies. Why do you mistrust your institutions? We'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about Linda Yaccarino. She's the new CEO, going to be the new CEO at Twitter. A lot of people on the right not thrilled. I agree. A lot of people on the left not thrilled, which means that, hey, maybe that's a good thing. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. She's awful. And also, are we talking about Miller Lite today?
I think we have that in there as well.
Miller Lite said, hey, Bud Light, hold my beer. And they decided to do an ad condemning their entire consumer base, namely men. Because why? Why would you drink Miller Lite beer is what they want to know. And they don't want you drinking Miller Lite beer. And I think you should listen to them.
Yes, absolutely. Hold my equally crappy beer is...
Hold my bum piss, said the CEO of Miller Lite. You know him, you love him. That's CEO number 2, Gerald Morgan. Gerald A., how are you, sir?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm good. Joe Lewis got messed up by some Canadian geese. So
he did.
He's okay. By that, I mean scared.
Well, I mean,
he got scared.
Those things are jerks.
There were 3 of them, and they went full wing sprint. And he was like, I didn't even want you, though, and he ran off.
They've taken down airplanes, Stephen.
Yes, they have. They also took out our bus when we were driving back from Urbana, Illinois. Remember that? Cracked the windshield. Oh, yeah, that's right. You weren't.
Yeah.
The driver next to me was listening to Kenny Loggins with noise-canceling headphones at 2 in the morning. That is ball-retractingly scary when you wake up and look, and you just look over here. Highway to the danger zone. You're like, we're going to die. And in third chair, when you hear this music, that means you know who it is.
Oh, that's the stuff.
It's the man who created me.
Come on now.
It's Pops Crowder. How are you, sir?
I'm great. I think it's sad that you had to explain to me that the intro was a famous anime.
Yes.
That I should be familiar with.
No, it's more sad for the rest of us that we know it.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, by the way, it's a live show Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. You can watch on Rumble. You can listen to the podcast. That's the best way to tune in because notifications on YouTube don't work. And by the way, if you signed up prior to May, anytime within the last 12 months, I know a lot of you signed up for Mug Club a while ago. Maybe you didn't get your mug. Maybe you felt like, you signed up, you weren't able to get a refund, and now, of course, we launched this completely independently in partnership with Rumble. What you can do is send proof of your purchase of any right-leaning subscription service, right-leaning streaming service to freemugclub@louderwithcrowder.com, and we will send you 3 months free.
Yeah, absolutely. Those emails should start going out this week, so make sure you check your box for the promo codes. And by the way, doesn't count if you signed up for us.
Yes, it doesn't count if you sign up for us. You don't get a double free.
You know how many emails I've gotten from people that signed up for us?
Well, semantically, it does.
That's double dipping. That's like sticking your entire mouth in the dip.
You don't double dip.
Take one dip and end it.
End it. So, speaking of double dipping, former Vice President Michael Pence, He's going to be in New Hampshire today to give a speech in what many obviously view as a potential launch of his. He's said that he is interested, right? This whole thing of exploratory committee, and they set something up, and I don't know, I don't want it. All right, just another slice. That's what they do. So he's going to be running for president, Mike Pence, and that brings us to this week's Time to Close.
Former Vice President Mike Pence is gearing up to announce for a potential 2024 presidential run.
The person who was at the Capitol that day, as you know, was your Vice President, Mike Pence, who says that you endangered his life on that day.
President Trump was wrong on January 6th.
Time to close. Endings and beginnings are ending and beginning now.
Mr. President, do you feel that you owe him an apology?
No, because he did something wrong. He should have put the votes back to the state legislatures, and I think we would have had a different outcome.
President Trump cut taxes across the board.
You know, the American people are witnessing the strong leadership of President Trump on the world stage. President Donald Trump is stepping into the role of leader of the free world.
I'm just very confident that Republican voters will choose wisely again, and I'm confident our standard bearer will carry the day.
If that standard bearer is the former president, if he is the nominee, would you support him?
Well, I think we'll have better choices, and I really trust Republican voters to sort it out.
I know that it's time for things to close. I know that it's time for things to close.
Why do these people even enter?
That's just exactly. Thank you.
I don't know if
that's his campaign.
A statement toward Mike Pence, or just that you're getting older.
Well,
was that Mike Pence?
A bit of both. By the way, that moment the fly landed on his hair and he did nothing for, I guess, 3 minutes while the fly set up a community.
Yes,
was the time he lost.
It's not the fly. It's that he's so comfortable. With the fly on him.
He is.
This is just another Tuesday for him. He's like, well, yeah, there's a fly on me. It's a smell of sulfur.
He is so stilted and measured and
boring.
Scripted.
Yeah.
I'll pause here. I'll grin.
Yes.
Then I'll look to the side and I'll throw something out.
Yeah.
That's
Just go away. Go away.
Also, he needs stilts.
No,
Trump destroyed him.
Why does Mike Pence sound like Casey Kasem? Yeah. Announcing my exploratory committee top 40 love songs.
With Casey Kasem.
It is Mike Pence's presidential campaign, the stick your head in the oven top 40 announcements. What's the name of the guy from Kentucky who was just on CNN this morning who's announced he's running for president?
I have no
Was he governor? Was he senator of Kentucky? You guys can bring up that name.
Yeah,
he was sitting there talking on CNN. And he's like, well, I think what Americans want is to focus on, lowering the debt. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. But these people do not understand how to speak to the American public. Yeah, Mike Pence, he's a super douche.
Well, but he's getting ahead of the game a little bit, and so he actually announced his vice presidential candidate to make sure that there was more energy. Ben Carson.
Yes.
Oh,
yes. Exactly.
Yeah, the guy you're thinking of was Asa Hutchinson.
Asa Hutchinson.
Arkansas.
Yeah. What did I say?
You said Kentucky.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Kentucky. Yeah. Arkansas.
He's boring.
Yeah, similar, but not really.
Is he the one that Sarah Huckabee beat?
In Arkansas?
Yeah.
Former.
Is he? Yeah, former, I guess. Yeah. He's sitting there saying that
so
he's going to tell you. So all these people are, look, I get it. We need a robust primary, but we don't need people who don't have a chance. This is about them raising some money and doing a book tour eventually. This is the problem with politics. Mike Pence needs to go away. Why? Because he sucks.
Done.
All right. Now we'll move on. Hit like if you agree, by the way, because the YouTube algorithm doesn't give a rat's ass about anything. So they don't give a rat's ass if you're subscribed. So you hit like, you share it. And by the way, if at any point today while you're watching on YouTube, you see and hear this, that means head on over to Rumble. We're not going to self-censor. Speaking of people who should self-censor, did you watch this, Pop Scrider, the Miller Lite?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did?
I did.
Yeah. Seething rage?
Well, I don't think men should drink Miller Lite anyway. So
yes, that's a good point. That's a good point. So
they're not men.
They're not men. They're silly little macchiato beers. So Miller Lite told Bud Light to hold its beer. Now this was actually something that was released in March, to be clear, but it's making the rounds now because they actually deleted it. They deleted it on Instagram, and so someone found it and it
bury it.
resurfaced, which tells you the kind of reaction that they got.
Yeah.
And this is Miller Lite deciding to burn their customer base to the ground. And by the way, also entirely factually inaccurate. So we'll fact check it really quickly just so you can kind of have justification for the... Look, if you're watching this, you're a Christian, it's wrong to hate. Unless you hate the right things, and Miller Lite qualifies.
Here's a little known fact. Women were among the very first to brew beer ever.
Oh, among.
From
How do you know?
Mesopotamia
You
to the
watched
Middle
it.
Ages to colonial America, women were the ones doing the brewing. Centuries later, how did the industry pay homage to the founding mothers of beer? They put us in bikinis.
Founding mothers of beer.
Oh, because that's offensive.
Look at this
Yeah, we put them in that.
Yeah, we put
It's
him in
time
that.
beer made it up to women. So today,
You were already
Miller
in
Lite is
them.
on a mission to clean up not just their
We just
the
noticed.
whole beer industry's Miller Lite has been scouring the internet for all this
Now, is that a
and
trans
buying it
woman,
back
or
so that we can turn it into
shred that
good
sweater,
for
too.
women brewers. Literally, good How, you ask? Ladies, take it away.
First, we turn the bad into compost. Then we feed compost to worms.
Zip it.
Push out beautiful fertilizer.
Notice that they give her a smaller bag of fertilizer.
Grow quality hops, which is
a
then
10-pound bag,
donated
not
to
a
women
50-pound.
brewers to make their own really good
Colt
But there's
45?
definitely more out there. In your attic, in the garage, in your parents' basement. Send any you got into Miller Lite, and they'll turn that into good too. Oh. So here's to women, because without us, there would be no beer.
Well, without people like you, there'd be no reason for beer.
Without us, there'll be no Miller.
Yes, exactly. Remember, everybody, March was Women's Revisionary History Month, just to be clear.
Apparently so. Wait, that last claim. Without us, there would be no beer. You said among.
Yeah, exactly. We were among the first brewers, which means you watched and you said, "Hey, why are you spending all day brewing? Why don't you come home and talk to me? What are you thinking?"
She meant amongst.
Yes.
Amongst.
Yes.
Apparently there were others that could have done this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You know what? Sometimes you think, hey, maybe AI taking over half the jobs is a good thing.
We deserve it.
Yeah. And Forbes, and we're going to fact check this. Nearly everything she just said is incorrect, by the way. This is the problem, is the rewriting of history. I get it. You don't like white men. Okay, we understand it. But you're wrong. You're just incorrect. Now, Forbes praised the ad with an article titled Miller Lite's Campaign to Eradicate Sexist Beer Advertising Proof Successful. How? Sexist beer. First of all, I don't know how beer can be sexist. I know they're saying advertising.
Right.
Tomorrow we actually will have our very own Mr. Miller, the sexist beer,
yeah. Okay,
to conduct an interview.
Yeah.
But it proved successful. So successful, they had to delete it from their own social media.
Immediately.
Post haste.
The minute Dylan Mulvaney started gracing a Bud Light, they're like, oh, God. Oh gosh. Sales are tanking.
They were watching the Dylan Mulvaney debacle unfurl like every single scientist who wasn't listened to before every disaster movie, like watching the stage 5, the level 5 hurricane, like, oh my God.
You know, I'd never had a Carl's Jr. until Paris Hilton. So it works.
That says more about you. That's the problem.
Absolutely. It's a terrible
Gosh, I want a hamburger right now.
and a terrible person.
Yes. So, by the way, here, let's go through the claim and then some rapid fire. So the claim that she makes is from Mesopotamia to colonial America, women were the ones doing the brewing. Okay, here's some truths. No. Okay. Now, some women have been involved, to be certain, just like women are involved with a lot of things. But men throughout history have largely been the ones brewing beer. Now, if you mean that some woman at some point found something that happened to be fermented and like took a nibble, like, try it. And the guy was like, I have my own fermented wheat. And she was like, try mine. Maybe.
It's got peaches.
But men have been brewing beer throughout history. So let's go to 1265. Bohemian king Ottokar, hopefully I have that right, Ottokar II, chartered a brewery in the town of Budweis. Originally, that's the home of Budweiser, right? The origin, I should say. George Washington,
And
Thomas
the
Jefferson,
Clydesdales.
they had breweries on their own plantations. And women didn't actually do a lot of the brewing. Just to be clear, the widespread brewing of beer, it was present by, was present in ancient Egypt and was presided over by men. Yep. Just to be clear. And then before you had this sort of mechanization, right, this sort of industrial revolution, planting, harvesting, of course, was what a lot of the men did. So maybe what they mean to say is that sometimes the men would do all of the legwork and then they take it and the woman would be like, yeah, well, you go out with the scythe in the sun before we have SPF anything. And you bring it, and I'll stir the pot of the wort every now and then I'm the brewer, I'm the brewmaster. I'm Mrs. Old Milwaukee. No, men did most of the physically exhaustive tasks that, of course, would be required to create beer. Here's just a clip because.
Then, farmers used a simple scythe to harvest their grain. They could cut an acre a day. Then they had to thresh it. An average farm was small and it fed about 5 people.
And he did not come home to a woman who took credit. Nope. Why don't you use your scythe like maybe you should use it like this? It's more of a risk. And maybe I this. She's like, shut up.
He had dinner waiting for him.
Yes, exactly. That's right. 73% of American farmers today are men. Just to be clear, men were paid in beer because of so British Navy sailors, they received a daily ration of beer until the 1810s. Belgian farmhands were actually paid in what is commonly referred to now as saison beer. Some people call it farmhouse beer, but saison means season, right, in French.
First
because
beer I liked.
The season of the harvest. They would pay their work hands because it was safer than water back then. And again, most of the work hands were men.
And it's liquid bread.
Yes.
Serves a good purpose.
It's actually, if it's low ABV beer, it's not actually a bad idea in place of like a Gatorade. There are electrolytes, you have potassium, you have a little bit of salt in there, high source of silicone. Beer can be helpful in moderation. Again, people will get mad who don't drink. I understand. And if you don't drink, you don't have to start drinking. I'm just telling you that men brewed the beer and men were the farmhands who got all of the materials that were used to brew the beer. By the way, smash the Rumble button if you're watching on Rumble because that's the only place where this is allowed. Exactly. I mean, I could talk about this on YouTube. They'll just shadow ban it. Here's something else. The monks, just to be clear, they were involved with beer production. Monks, I don't know if you know this, monks mean men. The Belgian Trappist monks, they brewed beer to sustain themselves during fasting, which, by the way, makes fasting a whole lot easier if you can drink Belgian ales, to be clear.
I didn't even know.
You're instantly hammered.
Have you had any Westmalle or they're like 9-11%.
Yes.
On an empty stomach.
What are you doing? Oh, I'm just communing with the Lord.
The Daniel fast is so much easier.
That's right.
Yes, I find that I'm brought much closer to Jesus after 4 Belgian triples.
With no food on my stomach.
I forgot they're so perfect.
I'm fasting.
You had Catholic saints like St. Arnold, of course, and then you had St. Florian. They saved people with beer. They would use it. They would also commune amongst people. And then, by the way, the nuns only brewed Zima, so that was something just to be clear.
Come on.
Now let's look at the demographic. The brewers, they cater to their core demographic. Men prefer beer to women, according to a Gallup poll. Men, 54%. Women, 23%. Also,
that's a big gap.
Worth noting what we're talking about, that without women, there would be no beer. Okay, I don't know if you know this, but some of the inventions, some of the devices that have been used, that have been implemented to brew beer, mechanized harvesters, pasteurization, kegs, taps, all of those were invented by men.
There you go.
So the men went out to the field. They took, and this is why women, just so you know, it's not to there are things that women do better than men. Working as a farmhand and brewing beer on modern inventions is not chief amongst them, just to be clear. This is why people get upset. It is about, and this is the issue too. We'll talk about this with the Twitter CEO. They aren't beholden to their user base. This is what happened right with Budweiser. As the sales went down, or Bud Light, right? The stock went up for a little bit. Why? Because it's about their shareholders. It's about the board. It's about the ESG score. It's about BlackRock. It's about Vanguard. It's about international interests. It's not about the actual people who consume the beer. And the left just takes history and then says the opposite of it.
Yeah.
But who invented the bikini?
Well, it's probably a guy.
Yeah, probably a guy.
That's the reason that
a little bit.
But also
buy Miller Lite.
Also tampons and birth control, just to be clear. And we did that for you. Okay, those are kind of for us a little bit.
We'll say.
I don't know why a guy invented pantyhose. Before that, every woman wore garter belts. Then we decided no, we need to make this far less attractive and
it's
gross.
A little window into Stephen right there.
What is that? I have no idea what someone's bringing up your.
It's his personal.
All right.
Search
Anything else
history.
that I missed?
No, I don't think you made. Look, they could have just sent out an ad that said, "Hey, we want to honor the contributions of women in brewing beer." Fantastic.
Yes.
There you go. Yay.
But in her defense, I think she meant it was a question. As a question, she said Mesopotamia.
Mesopotamia.
So I think she started out with that
at
premise.
the very top of that.
Mesopotamia.
And then the entire industry has been beholden to that advertising since its infancy, essentially.
Yes.
And now you're going to go back and say, we're so wrong for doing this to you. And I'm like, no. Do you know how much money those people got paid?
This is what it is. It is now.
They loved it.
This is how you know it is so clearly. And I would love to. You guys can comment below. Used to be the pearl clutching, Republicans, right? People who would be like, that's inappropriate. And by the way, usually Christians just were saying, hey, that's age inappropriate for kids, right? We need a rating system like Rated R. Or South Park, for example, shouldn't be on at 9 o'clock at night when kids tune into a cartoon, right? That might have been the issue. But now the left is they're the pearl clutchers who are offended by everything. They're going, oh, bikinis? Right, we're just saying, like, hey, hold on a second. Maybe you shouldn't have NC-17, like 12-year-olds going in. But the left now is offended at the sexualization of women. And by the way, there's a limit to it. But here's the thing. Look, men like beer. Men like beautiful women. You put beautiful women in bikinis next to beer, the product sells itself.
Look, it's terrible beer.
They're offended by everything, but under what basis? I thought sexuality was empowering. Oh, unless it's women who don't look like you, namely attractive women who help sell beer.
To the monks.
Well, no, they're not advertising to the monks. I don't think they have televisions.
They make their own beer.
They have a lot of beer.
That's true.
They made the best beer, by the way.
Yeah, they do. They make the best beer, the monks.
Fantastic.
But the left is a religion. They're offended
They are,
now.
yeah.
They're the ones saying you have to get rid of bikini. That's inappropriate. Really, what they're offended by is beauty.
Yes.
Take Lizzo and put her in a bikini, and it's beautiful and it's brave. Take an attractive woman and put her next to an American icon at a company, and you go, oh, hold on a second, that's wrong. That's wrong. You're sexualizing women. Do you think that if you take an attractive woman and put her in a turtleneck, that men still aren't thinking the same thing? You're just skipping the intermediary step.
Right. By the way, they also have no problem with a trans person in a thong performing before children. So,
Yes.
well, that's beautiful and brave.
Well, that's the right sexualization. The wrong sexualization is Kathy Ireland. Ugh, gross.
I know. Yeah. Natural women.
Yeah.
Ew.
We swapped out Elle McPherson for RuPaul.
Ridiculous.
It's the fall of Rome, folks. You're living it. So, now we move on to the Durham investigation. It's just people watch it and you know that you're mad. There you go. All the references are made publicly available at louderwithcredit.com. The link is in the description. What she said is incorrect. I'm sure there were a few women nagging at the Brewers somewhere down the line. So, okay, it's the same partnership. All right. Let's go to this, the Durham investigation again. This was the probe, right?
Wow.
The special counsel, Durham, released finally the report on the FBI's 2016 Trump-Russia. I'm always surprised when this story comes back because I thought it was done.
It seems like it's confirming what we knew.
And to be clear, they have admitted now, just so you know, I'm front-loading this and we'll get into the fact-checking. They've attributed everything that was wrong, and by everything, I do mean everything, that's not hyperbole, to missteps. That's the word of the day, missteps. Apparently, Pups Crider didn't get
the memo. Yeah, I don't know. Or he didn't care.
Yes.
I like the silly. I just don't participate.
That's fine. You're above it.
I don't do a good Pee Wee Herman.
No one does a good Pee Wee Herman except for Pee Wee. Stop it. That was bad and you should feel bad. All right. Let's run the clip.
The argument that John Durham is making here is an argument that he's made before, which is essentially that he doesn't believe the FBI had the proper predication, was fully justified in opening that counterintelligence investigation codenamed Crossfire Hurricane back in 2016 into the Trump campaign. He says that the FBI acted hastily and on uncorroborated raw information, and he says that there was other information, for example, about the Hillary Clinton campaign involving a foreign government that wanted to try to influence them, that the FBI didn't react to in similar ways.
Okay, so this is what the missteps, by the way, is using the FBI's Twitter response, saying,
You said it.
Had these reforms been in place in 2016, the missteps identified in
You need a moratorium on the word of the day, or
the word of the day identified in the report could have been prevented. And by the way, reforms mean any type of guidelines or standards whatsoever. And this, just to be clear, now it's irrefutable. And we've known this for a long time, but now the FBI is completely admitting it. Durham is admitting it.
Yes.
This constitutes an actual war on democracy. When you have your own intelligence institutions, and by the way, this has happened in the past, of course, when you have federal agents who are plotting to kidnap a governor and blame it on some glorified beer drinking club, when they decide to actively commit crimes on January 6th going into the Capitol in order to entrap other people. Though it's not just entrapment, because in entrapment, you're not actually allowed to commit a crime as a federal agent. Yes, that is a war on democracy. That is a war against you, the American citizen. Just to be clear, this is just more confirmation of that. Why don't you trust your institution? quickly because they're talking about it.
I'll come back
really
to my
quickly.
point.
Of this, where Durham said, look, I don't think there should have been a full-scale investigation, but a preliminary investigation. Wouldn't that have led to a full-scale investigation? Because if you look at some of the connections, that would have prompted the FBI to say, hey, we need to look into this fully.
Exactly. I mean, that's a big admission on Durham's part. The fact that he conceded that a preliminary investigation was appropriate to start. And by the way, you're exactly right. It would have immediately converted into a full investigation anyway. It doesn't take a lot to get there for the FBI. And they immediately started uncovering all of these questionable contacts between the Russians and the Trump folks. I mean, there was a lot of meat there. You can read about
Why do they even say that? No, they've admitted that that's not the case. Gerald, let's go to your point, because then we have some then and now clips of this is them really trying to couch it. We have some clips from CNN actually acknowledging that this was a sham, but you had a point.
Here's the low-level investigation that it should have been, and they said that this should have been a preliminary, low-level, happens all the time. Nobody finds out about it like, nah, it doesn't make any sense at all. Yes. That should have been the low-level investigation. No, it would not have blown up into a full-scale investigation. The problem that we have is that you guys want to act like a handful of people on January 6th was overthrowing democracy because they got out of control. Not the rest of the protesters that weren't getting out of control, but the people, the handful, maybe a few hundred people that ended up getting crazy out of a crowd of literally tens and tens and tens of thousands of people, maybe hundreds of thousands of people there, right? This is the government actively going after the sitting president of the United States for 3 years.
And by the way, saying that the election was not legitimate, just to be clear.
Yes, claiming the election was not legitimate, that Russians were absolutely influencing the president of the United States, dogging him at every single turn. This is not a mistake. This is not an oopsie.
And by the way, it's still to this day. People go, Donald Trump, Putin's puppet, because of this.
Yes.
The preliminary investigation, sometimes people will give you crap if you're being reductive. I think it's distilling it. You know, my favorite comedian of all time, Norm Macdonald, we've talked about it. He would take a punchline, he would take a joke, and he would distill it down to as few words as possible. That's what the preliminary investigation should have been. It should have been, hey, but the dossier here is it's paid for by Hillary Clinton, you know.
Yeah.
I can't use that. That's obviously bullshit. You know, they're Hillary Clinton in the dossier. Not a reliable source. In other news,
that husband killed a guy.
Yeah, husband killed a guy. He made a murder in the White House. Yeah?
That's exactly what it should have been. This should scare the hell out of everybody, because this is not somebody just not following practices like the FBI's tweet said, oh, we've got new things in place. It was a political hit job. Yeah. You guys tried to take down a sitting president knowing that it was false. Somebody goes to jail for that.
Yeah. It changes everything. Like I've said, they unwittingly created the most squeaky clean presidency ever. The way they scrutinized him every single day. And he can deny anything now. Yeah. He's totally insulated.
Witch hunt.
Why would we believe you ever?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a big win for him.
Yeah, exactly. He'd be like, well, look, you want to say that I sexually abused her, but you said that I worked with Russia, so.
So there you go.
Who can
Doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah. Doesn't matter what it is.
And we can skip clip MSNBC because they were just talking about it on CNN. So this is them now trying to downplay it, but the findings are so conclusive, again, all references are publicly available, that even CNN has not been able to actually deny their actuality.
Regardless, the report is now here. It has dropped, and it might not have produced everything of what some Republicans hoped for. It is, regardless, devastating to the FBI, and to a degree, it does exonerate Donald Trump.
The investigation found that the FBI failed in many, many ways.
And by the way, what does that mean? They failed at what? They failed at trying to remove a sitting president by what? Sowing mistrust in the legitimacy of the election. There was an entire board council. Elizabeth Warren was on there. Amy Klobuchar saying, we need to strengthen our elections because Russia interfered with the 2016 election. Just like fake news. The left tried to use fake news initially, and then Donald Trump jiu-jitsu'd it on them. Now they hate that term, fake news. They were the ones saying elections are not fair, elections are not free, elections are being interfered with foreign entities. And we have people here in the United States, namely Donald Trump, working with foreign entities, foreign agents. No word on the fact that Eric Swalwell was fornicating a Chinese spy.
Yep.
Which brings us to this installment of Then and Now. All right, so let's go back to then, right? Then, time travel. Then. They said that there was ample evidence, so much evidence they could just kind of skip the preliminary.
Well, yeah.
To open what was referred to, if you have forgotten, it was referred to as Crossfire Hurricane. That was the investigation.
Good naming.
Back then,
on
they said
Capitol Hill today, lawmakers were busy poring over the election we just had. honored to be here representing the people of the FBI.
Members of the House Intelligence Committee convening a blockbuster hearing.
I would like to welcome our witnesses, Director of the FBI, Jim Comey, and Director of the National Security Agency, Admiral Rogers.
The nation's top cop and one of the nation's most senior spy masters there to testify about allegations that Russia tried to influence the outcome.
I have been authorized by the Department of Justice to confirm that the FBI, as part of our counterintelligence mission, is investigating the Russian government's efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election.
Now, why would you need to know that they were investigating? Again, this was Kabuki theater. This was a show investigation, a show sort of pseudo trial, really, because Donald Trump's character was put on trial. So that was then. Now, and this is according to the Durham report, there was, I know what you're thinking, some, none.
A little?
Maybe a little. Not even any.
Really?
None at all. No scotch. No scotch, no droplet, no skosh, no smidgen. There was no credible evidence. This is from the report. Based on the evidence gathered in the multiple, exhaustive, and costly federal investigations, neither U.S. law enforcement nor the intelligence community appears to have possessed any actual evidence of collusion in their holdings at the commencement of the Crossfire Hurricane investigation.
Wow.
And just when you're saying no credible evidence, you're saying, well, hold on a second, what's the standard? Well, Durham noted that the FBI did not, for example, interview any pertinent witnesses. Jeez. They didn't review their own intelligence, and they didn't use any standard analytical tools that would be used in an investigation like this.
Yes.
So no evidence, none whatsoever. This has been going on for years. By the way, continued. Remember the questions for Donald Trump in the re-election campaign were still about Russia.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, they if they had just looked at kind of the top sheet for the binder and it said Hillary Clinton campaign strategy, that probably would have tipped them off just a little bit. Also, the timing in October for the October surprise. I think that was...
well, no one reads the top sheet anymore.
Well, they need to read the top sheet. So listen, this is James Comey, right? The guy who tried to rehab, I think it was on HBO or one of those places, tried to rehab his image by doing this documentary, releasing a book. He's the guy who found that Hillary Clinton had all of the information that we thought she had on her private emails, you know, all the email stuff that was classified on her private servers at home, and deleted them and destroyed the information so that we couldn't even go into it, right? Used BleachBit or whatever it was to kind of get rid of it and said, that's not good, but I don't think we should charge her.
Yeah.
That's that guy.
Hey, if they weren't spending, again, according to the report here, the exhaustive and costly, if they weren't spending those resources, maybe we could have found out all the people who were sex trafficked to Epstein's pedophile island.
Probably so, and it wouldn't cost you much. You just have to ask Ghislaine Maxwell. Yeah. She's in jail. We know where she is.
You just walk to the island like Columbo with a notepad and you say, "You have sex with Epstein?" And the answer is always yes.
It is always yes.
Yes. And then you'd be able to find it. Still no answers? The Vegas shooter, nothing? But they spent a bunch of time on this. And by the way, it's not that they didn't find anything. They were fabricating information to the public that the media, of course, disseminated. All right, so let's go back to then. Right, back then, they were claiming that the Steele dossier, and you remember Steele dossier, Fusion GPS, was paid for by partially by the Hillary Clinton campaign. They were saying back then that the Steele dossier was completely legitimate.
Well, Jake, for the first time, U.S. investigators say that they have corroborated some of the communications detailed in a 35-page dossier compiled by a former British intelligence agent. CNN was first to report last month that then President-elect Donald Trump and President Barack Obama were briefed on the existence of the memos prior to the inauguration.
2-3 weeks at that point?
Until now, U.S. officials have said that none of the content or allegations have been verified. But now, multiple current and former U.S. law enforcement and intelligence officials tell CNN that intelligence intercepts of foreign nationals confirmed that some of the conversations described in the dossier took place between the same individuals on the same days and from the same locations as detailed in the dossier.
This is why I believe, sometimes people say, oh, it's being reductive. This is why I believe in speaking as clearly as possible. Okay? You should be simple and clear in your communication. What that man just said was nothing.
Yes.
So we're trying to paint a picture so you can hold the media account, not just the media, but of course the DNC, but I repeat myself, hold them accountable. That's what they were saying back then. Though they haven't been corroborated, now they're saying that they have, right? That's what they said back then, which brings us to now. No, the FBI didn't corroborate anything, according to the report. The FBI attempted over time to investigate and analyze the Steele reports, but ultimately was not able to confirm or corroborate any of the substantive allegations contained in those reports.
Nothing! That's insane. The guy basically just, at CNN, fire everyone, by the way.
Yes.
All of your advisors, all of the multiple intelligence agency people, plus former intelligence officials that said this. What was it at a time? There was like 60 some odd people that they kept, like some number that they kept quoting. Like, according to 60 former intelligence, former and current, that this is true. Fire every single one of them and actually do your damn job as a journalist. Right. Maybe go out and find out confirm one.
I actually think that this is one of those issues where, as a matter of national security, this entire investigation should be unsealed. We should know how they interviewed people. We should know how they tried to corroborate their sources. We should know how they investigated these. In other words, how do you spend this much time and these many resources? I understand that sometimes in the interest of national security, for example, if you're trying to track down some jihadi in the middle of, what you're soon to turn into Kel-El's bachelor pad, then yeah, okay, you need to keep that hidden. In this case, we now know that it was a sham. We want to know, hold on a second, why did it take you this long, and what leads were you tracking down? What leads were you chasing down? Comment below and hit like if you think this should be released to the public. Not just the final report, not just a briefing, but everything. This should be the kind of scenario where investigative journalists, you, citizen journalists, should be able to dive deep into this. You should be able to comb through all of it to see what... named Igor Danchenko, who was a Russian national, and described himself, he's a Russian national, and he described his own sources as rumor and speculation. So all of this was based on the Russian equivalent of TMZ.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Tonight on Igor Danchenko, I see Trump at airport. Oh, did you sleep with Chinese spy?
He's peeing on prostitutes, too. Don't forget, that was part of this report.
No, he had prostitutes peeing on furniture in front of him, remember? That's an in-depth lie.
Yes, it is.
And makes no sense because he's a germaphobe. If Donald Trump was into weird sex stuff, the last thing I would assume would be Russian prostitutes peeing on furniture. I don't know. Is it me? Like maybe he would be into watching Russian prostitutes like in a maid outfit cleaning up furniture. Like that's it. It's even though it has a cellophane, clean it.
Makes it easier.
Get the Swiffer.
The wet jet. I love the wet jet.
Big fan.
So this brings us back to then. And again, they want to memory hold this. They want to gaslight you. So now you act like, well, I guess so. Well, they did their investigation. No. They were already telling you the conclusion of the investigation as it was ongoing, and it was being dishonestly conducted. They said back then that this was an unbiased investigation.
In light of the Don Jr. email and other allegations that this whole thing about Trump campaign in Russia is a witch hunt. Is that a fair description of what we're all dealing with in America?
Well, Senator, I can't speak to the basis for those comments. I can tell you that my experience with Director
I'm
Mueller,
asking you, as the future FBI director, do you consider this endeavor a witch hunt?
I do not consider Director Mueller to be on a witch hunt.
Okay. Now, I understand that's a term that maybe if it exists sort of in a vacuum, witch hunt. All right. Do we have anything to compare it to? Which brings us to now. Now we know that there were different standards, double standards, if you will, used to investigate Trump while ignoring Hillary Clinton. So this is from the report. Unlike the FBI's opening of a full investigation of unknown members of the Trump campaign based on raw, uncorroborated information in this separate matter involving a purported Hillary Clinton campaign plan, the FBI never opened any type of inquiry. That's several steps removed from an entirely investigation. We didn't even have a preliminary investigation. We spent federal resources on the investigation. Not even an inquiry with Hillary Clinton, even though she said, yeah, I did that shit.
Pretty much. They knew this, by the way. Barack Obama knew this. If you look at some of the reports in this dossier, this kind of the Durham report, if you look at this, then and maybe our research team can pull this up, they actually briefed, I think Brennan briefed the president about this and about this being something from the Hillary Clinton campaign, kind of as the origination of the source. I believe that was known at the time. Of course. That was, and they briefed him in the Situation Room. Yeah. Right? This is like everybody was in on it, guys. Everybody was in on it. That's what it tells you. The sitting president of the United States, the person who is the front runner for the Democrats, the CIA and the FBI were in on it. Yeah. They knew about this the entire time and went out and said, well, several sources tell us that this is true. Several sources tell us, former and current intelligence officials tell us that this is true, and Russia's meddling in the election. Before his boxes are even unpacked at 1600 Pennsylvania, this is in the news.
Right, exactly. And then they would ask about it. Remember when they fact-checked him at one of where he said, in the previous administration spied on my camp. They said, that's not true, Mr. President. It absolutely was true. Yeah. It absolutely was true.
Policy advisors to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal claiming interference by Russian security services.
There it is. Oh. July of 2016. He didn't.
And everyone likes to act like Barack Obama is a stand-up guy.
Exactly.
He was
Pull that back
No, wait. I can't. Hold on. I can't think straight. No, isn't that illegal? They said, yes. So let me get this straight. Hold on, Gerald. Let me get this straight. Is we're going to effectively tarnish, spy on a campaign.
Yeah.
On president, even though we know it's illegal.
That's correct, Mr. President. Yes. Yeah. Pull that back up. I want to be clear. This is not that this was an allegation. This is not that this was some kind of thing where we're saying July 26th of 2016, a proposal from one of her foreign policy advisors to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal claiming interference by Russian security services, approved by Hillary Clinton. That's the conversation that they had, not, hey, there's this dossier and yeah, part of it's funded by these guys, but we still think it's true. No. This was a plot cooked up by Hillary Clinton, Mr. President, and we want you to know about it so everybody's on the same page when we go out in public and make sure that everybody hears about Donald Trump.
No, don't get all wee-weed up. Remember when you tried to make that a term?
Yeah.
My mom used to say, don't get wee-weed up.
Nobody ever said that.
No one said that at all. I don't think it's a saying. No, it's a saying in the South. It's not. Maybe in Kenya.
Nope. Further south. Keep going. little bit east. No, so here's the other thing about this. It's no charges.
Right.
No charges right now from this report. I think we've pulled up in the past, maybe Hillary Clinton's lawyer one time was charged for something and was acquitted. There may have been one person that actually was convicted of something, but they're looking at this right now and saying, oh, but at least, there's no breaking of the law. But hey, remember, nobody's above the law. So Donald Trump, I know you're being, in New York right now, you're being indicted, and actually a trial is coming up about something where you didn't actually pay somebody because they said you didn't pay them for this. But your lawyer is lying about this right now because he spent some time in jail. But there's no charges for this?
Yeah.
This is the biggest sedition case in the history of this country. Arguably, maybe there's one more I'm forgetting about, that should be tried. And if the Congress does not take up hearings immediately on this, they are not doing their job.
And by the way, this is the information equivalent of disarming you as a populace. In other words, if you don't have the ability to defend yourself, if you don't have a firearm, and only the government has firearms, well, it's no longer a fair fight, right? You might as well just submit to their will. If The government is not beholden to the law. In other words, if you can be charged, if you can be convicted for the exact same crimes for which they will be entirely absolved at every turn, you no longer have a free society. The intelligence agencies are supposed to exist to serve and protect you. They don't. They protect themselves. Why do you mistrust your institutions? I think if you trusted our institutions in 2023, I think you're a fool. This was an actual subversion of democracy. It was 1,000 times worse than what happened on January 6th, just to be clear. And, well, maybe not if you're including what the FBI did on January 6th, but the point remains. And, by the way, again, the intelligence agencies, what's important, they worked for 3 years. 3 years. 3 years in collusion with Democrats, in collusion with, before Donald Trump came to office, then sitting president, and the person who they thought was going to have a coronation, Hillary Clinton, to try and prevent and then unseat the president you elected. And they chalk it all up now. I don't know how many millions of dollars. I'd be interested to see those numbers. They chalk it all up to, it was just a few missteps.
I'm done with it.
Do you buy it? Do you buy it?
That was low energy.
Comment below. Do you buy them? Do you buy that? Just it was a mistake. I forgot. They have the Lloyd Christmas defense. I forgot you never make a mistake.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, people should be going to jail. Sorry, this is not a mistake. This is. If this is allowed to continue, don't think for a second that the FBI and the CIA won't be weaponized potentially the other way, or just potentially against everyday citizens. I don't know, like the IRS has been in the past. You remember when that happened, when all the conservatives started getting audited for no reason whatsoever by the IRS, and they started coming and closing down businesses? Don't think for a second that this can be
Let's go through the Donald Trump indictments, right? When you say go to jail, because that's important. It's pretty severe. Okay, Donald Trump, okay. Do you think Donald Trump should go to jail for calling a porn star a lying whore? Do you think that's a jailable offense when she admitted that it never happened, then said it did happen, then said it didn't happen, then said that it did happen? And by the way, she lost to the point where she has to pay his legal fee. Okay, is that a jailable offense? Is it a jailable offense to say that woman's not my type, where he was not found guilty of actually raping somebody? Is it a jailable offense? Should he go to jail when you talk about January 6th? What they discussed, that he said, make your voices patriotically and peacefully heard. Is it a jailable offense to say this is not a free election, this is rigged? Is that jailable? Here's the thing. For everything you dislike about Donald Trump, there is something valuable in someone never able to shut up. He's not capable of keeping a secret. You know there weren't things done in secret because he will say it publicly.
Well, it was the Zelensky phone call. He's like, what do you mean it was a perfect call? He didn't deny the call.
No, it was a perfect call. It was the best call. You go make the call. I bet it would suck. Are those jailable? Now, should it be a jailable offense to clear classified information from your computer and collude, by the way, with the media, with intelligence agencies to try and overthrow a democratic election and its elected leader, Donald Trump? What's a jailable offense? Comment below. I'm very curious. Let's take the worst that they throw at Donald Trump. I don't even think it's close. I don't even think it's close.
I'd also like to start a call for the Washington Post to give back their Pulitzer for their coverage of the 2016 Russiagate scandal.
Yeah. Right.
Is it time for you guys to do that? Because you got an award.
That's true.
That's right.
Maybe Pulitzer. I'm crying out loud. That's like the Nobel Peace Prize. No one wants that anymore.
No, somebody's got to be spanked for this. This has to have some teeth.
Yes.
And then we need to start going after these guys hard. I mean, legally, not the way they fight, but we need to start, when we get the power back, we need to start taking their guys down.
Yes.
Just the way it is.
And this is the thing.
Until someone taps, it's just got to be hard.
If Ron DeSantis doesn't come out and say, defund the FBI completely. Remember I asked Carrie Lake, I said, that is my... If the candidate for I should say in the primaries, I won't vote for anyone who does not espouse the belief of defunding the FBI and the CIA and building something else in its place. They want you to think that you're an extremist. What's the value in the FBI? What's the value in the CIA when you see this? How did everybody, let's assume incompetence as opposed to malicious intent, which we know now.
Right.
How incompetent does every single person in the FBI have to be for this to go on? Well, I guess about the time of the presidential term, right? Time of re-election. That's about how long it went on. Yeah. And then it sort of fizzled into the background. If it's that completely incompetent, then there's no value there. Defund the FBI. Defund the FBI and the CIA. We need something else in its place, or nothing would be just as good at this point.
Right. They didn't come out and issue an apology either. They didn't come out and say Donald Trump actually was not guilty. It took an investigation into what happened by the federal government to see this.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump will not get anything from this. He will not, other than a giant bump in the polls.
Right.
Right. And one more thing to point at. But
And being inoculated.
Say, sorry.
That inoculation is worth a lot.
Yeah.
If I'm him, I go to that well.
I hope that I'm getting that right.
It's close enough.
And this has upset people on the right. It's upset some people on the left, namely people on the right. But this is an issue. We talked about this with Tucker Carlson. And we're pretty fortunate here in our partnership with Rumble. Who is more important? The advertiser, and by the way, giant multinational conglomerate, right, corporations who have ESG and woke scores, or you? Or the user. And that is going to determine the direction of Twitter. That's one thing that we have. We're incredibly grateful. By the way, you can join up at lighthearthcreditor.com/mugclub. We are actually funded by viewers like you. It's $89 annual. Did you say that we have a discount now for veterans?
I need to put the code in place, but it should be there within about the next week.
We're going to have the code for the next week for veterans or active military. You don't join up, there's no more show. You see sponsors every now and then. There will never be more than one per show, and these are sponsors that are basically boycott-proof. But this is the issue. We saw with Tucker Carlson. Fox News said, hey, we're going with the advertisers, who, by the way, are not beholden to the audience. You see it with Bud Light. You see it with Miller. They're not actually really, I guess I should say, mentally preoccupied with the idea of you, the user base, the consumer. They say, oh, hold on a second. It's about the dollars. It's about the board. It's about the shares. And this is going to determine the direction of Twitter. Who's more important, the advertiser, and that's what I see, which is most troubling, not just the leftist tendencies, or you, the user. So let's kind of get through. There you go. March 23, just to be clear. They're appointing a new CEO for a few different reasons. Tesla stock has been sort of waning a little bit. It requires more attention from Elon Musk. Part of me thinks this was a billionaire's toy train set, and he sort of got bored of it. Now, the revenue at Twitter, and this is the difference between the revenue versus people using Twitter. The revenue at Twitter fell about 50% because of a massive decline in ad revenue, just to be clear. Now, that is because a lot of woke companies have said, we're not going to advertise on Twitter. Now, that doesn't necessarily correlate with the success of Twitter as a platform, which was its original intent, right, to be a place where people could communicate, because Musk has actually talked about this. New Twitter signups have been at an all-time high.
Yeah.
Right? They were up 66% per day from 2021 to 2022, from November 21 to 2022.
Legit hockey stick graph.
Yeah,
exactly.
66% per day. Now, we don't have the full numbers on the interactions, the daily traffic, but the point is the 50% decline in advertising does not match the intent of Twitter, which is to be an open forum. So if advertisers are saying, yeah, hold on, we don't want to advertise in a place that's an open forum of ideas that doesn't censor people and encourages freedom of speech, well, now you have a decision to make. Tell the advertisers to go screw themselves, kind of like us with Google, with YouTube. The only time you ever see random ads if you're watching on YouTube is because someone else has claimed our content, right? The Google AdSense, we don't make $1.
Yeah.
We decided that we would not be beholden to YouTube, Alphabet, Facebook, right? Instagram, at one point, Twitter. And some people decide that that's the business model they want, just on the left and on the right. What matters to us is you. And Twitter has a fork in the road. Is it you, the user, who has determined its direction, and I would say in a largely positive way, or is it the corporations who've decided to cut bait and run? So,
yeah, absolutely. And by the way, some of those ad dollars will come back, because a lot of people right now have been talking about how effective advertising is, especially conservatives that we've talked to have said, hey, advertising is actually pretty effective right now on Twitter. They're actually doing a good job of making some of those corrections. But this is, I think, a misstep by Elon. So we'll get into some of the details why, but you'll see very quickly how this can go off.
Well, they'll come back because of the growing subscriber base.
Yeah.
That's
where eyeballs are.
That's right.
Yeah. And eventually their morals won't matter to them because they never did in the first place.
Yes. Their morals, I mean, their sacrifices to Moloch.
Yeah.
Prior to being named Twitter's new CEO, Yaccarino, let's give you a little bit of a profile here. She was the chairman of global advertising and partnerships at NBC Universal. By the way, we've had a few run-ins with NBC Universal ourselves.
I was about to say that conservative bastion.
Yes. And according to the Wall Street Journal, Miss Yaccarino has a reputation for hard-nosed negotiating tactics, and media buyers have described her as, quote, the Velvet Hammer. Velvet Hammer, which I actually think was Paul Pelosi's nickname at the nudist colony in Sausalito. So it seems like it all comes back.
Little name tag there on the hair.
And they're going to switch the name of Twitter to Bud Light. So why are people on the right concerned? All right. Well, there are a few reasons. So here's a major complaint that I would say is valid, and then we'll show some clips. Yeah, kind of a biggie. Yacarino serves as the executive chairman for the Task Force on Future of Work at the World Economic Forum.
Whoops.
Which people do, typically speaking, when it comes to economic forums. I don't like the world one.
No. Is that the Klaus Schwab World Economic?
Yes.
Same one? Oh.
Yeah. Not a big fan, but that's just, and all the references, by the way, will be made publicly available. That one is her LinkedIn. So, you can question that if you want, but maybe she's just lying.
It's not honorary. It's active.
I mean, I padded my resume when I was a kid.
Yeah. You didn't put World Economic Forum.
I got to work at the French-Canadian version of Nordstrom's, and they said, "You've worked in retail before?" And I said,
You said, oui.
Yes. I said, bye, white. So, in case you've forgotten, the World Economic Forum, they're the ones responsible for this. What they viewed as a positive, I guess, sort of, I don't know if it's an advertisement, but they put this out there. This is their dystopian vision for the future. This is real.
Agenda 2030.
You'll own nothing, and you'll be happy. Whatever you want, you'll rent, and it'll be delivered by drone. So hold on a second. This is my problem with, again, the World Economic Forum. Does nobody own anything? Oh, no, wait. Eventually, someone owns something. Yeah. You want it consolidated to a few mega powers, namely government and the corporations they deem too big to fail.
It's the elites.
Yes.
They get to own everything.
And you'll rent everything.
Yes, because you don't need to own stuff. You'll be happier. Trust us.
You'll be happier.
Less stress.
Yes, the stress of choice.
Mortgages.
Now, listen, I like the drone delivery component of that, but that is all.
I don't like the drone delivery component.
I do.
I don't at all.
I get ice cream delivered every once in a while.
I love
drone.
the shotgun practice.
Kids love it.
You really do?
Yes. It's a test service.
We need to admonish Gerald. Gerald, stop with the drone service, okay? It's unnecessary.
It's fun. Guys, I'm gay. I am not.
So Yacarino
It's
also...
a different way of getting it to your porch.
Yes,
I mean,
there's
nothing special.
Stupid.
Kids like it.
But it's cool.
Got videos.
Well, you're an adult. You're an adult man.
I didn't say
Yacarino, by the way, also led an ad council. And this ad council, they had a campaign featuring the Pope. And by the way, when I'm looking to take COVID vaccine advice, I look to the Pope.
Gracias a Dios y al trabajo de muchos, hoy tenemos vacunas para protegernos.
Looks like he's had one too many vaccines.
Ellas traen esperanza para acabar la pandemia, pero solo si están disponibles para todos.
Still waiting for that statement on the kid sex. Now,
the Pope was wrong. What about the infallibility, Gerald? Your thoughts?
It's only when speaking on issues of spirituality and only when speaking ex cathedra, because that's somewhere in the back of the Bible.
Somewhere near the back.
Yeah.
What about the two popes that were competing, or the popes that were purchased?
Here's my look, and by the way, I know that a lot of Catholics out there obviously don't like the current Pope, just to be clear.
Right, yeah.
But at a certain point, you do have to say, when the Pope is wrong about almost everything else, and I know you're going to say this is a media hitch-up. No, it's not. No, it's not. He's been wrong about nearly everything else. Why would he be right on solely issues of spirituality when speaking ex cathedra? If you don't trust him on anything else, if you don't trust him on international recommendations, you don't trust him on tax policy, you don't trust him on issues as it relates to cultural Marxism, you don't trust him on issues as it relates to vaccines. Okay, so we're supposed to believe that he can't even get something right accidentally outside of speaking on issues of spirituality, kind of the most important issues, and only when speaking in this limited capacity. I'm sorry. Look, again, we have a lot of Catholics who work here, but we also have Catholics who work here. Like Kevin's basically Square Bear is basically Eastern Orthodox. Only he still has to claim that he's Catholic because he does not like this Pope. I'm like, well, you can't just say the Pope is full of it. It's got to be a tough. So my heart goes out to you. It's got to be a tough place to be right now when this guy is the Pope, and not all popes have been that way. This is
it's true.
A significant veering. I don't know enough about Ratzinger. I know he was German.
That's about all you need to
know. Now, this broad, I keep forgetting her, Yacarino. Yacarino. She's always yakking, this broad. She was also a huge proponent of masking in 2021.
We are here to talk about masking up or packing up. I promise you, we're doing good so far. Just keep your distance, get your hands washed often, get tested often, and wear your mask. That'll get us closer and closer to normal days.
Just to be clear, mask up or pack up means you better wear a mask or you're going to be fired.
Yes, there you go. And
get your hands washed.
Yeah, depending on when that was released in 2021, that matters.
Yeah.
The beginning of 21, less offensive. But I'm sorry, I don't know that I give people a whole lot of a pass here, because at the end of 2020, we were starting to go, this is really widespread opening should be happening again.
We were back to normal here.
Yeah, we were in the great state of Texas, but a lot of other places were not. But 21?
I still see a lot of people with masks out in public. Hey, that's a question for you guys. You still see people with masks, and how do you converse with them? I always say, thanks for keeping me safe if you're sick.
There you go.
They say, what? They say, I'm not sick. I go, then why are you wearing a mask? Now, there is science to show that if you are sick, that wearing a mask can probably help, because, again, it's right up against your filthy grill to help prevent the spread of droplets. There's some science. Yes, there is some science there, but, again, not if it's being reused and not if it's not properly fitted. But it does not help you at all. The science is quite settled. It does not help you avoid getting COVID, or in this case, the flu. So when I see people with a mask go, oh, feeling sick? And if they say no, I just go,
I look at them with horror on my face, like they're about to knock over the Kroger. I saw a guy the other day with a bandana on his face walking around. I was like, what are you?
Well, no, that was a member of MS-13.
That's all. Okay.
Yes. I was going to say Crips, but that's better.
You have to go by the face tattoos sometimes.
Teardrops.
Yes.
Yeah, neck tattoo.
So, pack up or mask up. That means I'll fire you if you don't mask. And by the way, she's also used her platform. This is what's most disturbing to me. And then I'll get to her censorship stances to push for the, we use the term DEI. It's diversity, equity, inclusion agendas. Now, listen to the numbers at the end of this clip, and they just aren't even feasible.
Under the leadership of Brian Roberts and Jeff Shell, Comcast set up a fund to the value of $100 million to fight social justice and equality, and obviously supporting many, many important groups. So then we had to make sure we were taking the right steps to direct funds towards the right organizations, to make a public statement of accountability, like Cesar Conde, our new chairman of News, who made a public statement that was confronting editorial bias and saying, my division, our news division, the biggest news division in the country, is going to be 50% women and 50% people of color.
Yeah, also, 50% women. Wait, was she talking about brewing? And 50% people of color. Okay, so you're going to have to draw 50%. By the way, that's 100%. If she meant 50% both women and people of color, that's a stupid statement either way. The math doesn't make sense. 12% of the population, if we're talking about the United States, are going to make up 50% of people in a a hyperly specialized field of work.
Yeah, well,
the news division. And by the way, that won't even be representative of the American populace at large.
No, and well, she didn't say what color. She just said people of color.
Oh, okay. That can include anybody.
It's mostly.
But in that 12% are men, elderly, children.
Right.
So that number is
that's also
4%.
But that shouldn't be the way that you try to structure an organization.
She wants to have a news division of entirely black children.
You know what I want? I want to make sure that it's a level playing field and that the best people end up getting the jobs. There you go.
Well, in her defense, I think she was confused. She thought WEF was WWE. Did you see that belt over her shoulder?
I think that was a Wonder Woman belt.
Okay.
She's a moron.
Was that in that clip?
Go back to that.
Yeah, is it this clip? Let me see. Is the belt over her shoulder?
Amongst all the awards.
That's the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah, that is. That's a professional wrestling belt.
That's the Intercontinental Championship right there.
Let me tell you about the World Economic Forum. The cream's gonna rise to the top. Yeah. Yacarino is Italian for one who won't shut the fuck up. Yeah.
I just set him up. That's what I do. Wind him up.
Little Ultimate Warrior action.
Yeah.
I'm Yacarino. Welcome to Wide World, where nightmares are the best part of my day.
Good stuff. At the end of that, though, she did do a little. And she has the Hogan stash. Bleaching it doesn't work, sweetheart. Now,
but really, she has no worldview. She has no values. You can tell. You know, Dennis Miller says, someone of that age, you've lived an asshole's life.
Yes.
You haven't thought about such things. She just floats from one side to the other. She doesn't care. Now she's working for Twitter. She'll develop some worldview that'll be comfortable for her there. I mean, unbelievable how she's...
Although she does seem to have a worldview, this is very disconcerting, on the idea of freedom of speech. And this goes to the point that we made earlier. Do you understand there's a huge gap and a difference between the advertisers, the woke corporations with the ESG scores, and you, the viewer, the user. And I really was happy. By the way, some people were reaching out going like, oh, if Twitter's going to do streaming, is that bad for Rumble? No, I want to see, for example, let's say Tucker Carlson is streaming on Twitter. He may or may not end up streaming on Rumble. I want him to do well, and I want Twitter to do well, and I want Rumble to do well. I want everyone to do well, not named YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. Just to be clear, there need to be viable alternatives. Yeah. We lived through the dark ages where everyone said, well, you just have to go to YouTube. And now the vast majority of you watch on Rumble or on Mug Club. That, to me, and by the way, we were willing to take a 50% haircut on viewership in migrating everyone over from YouTube. Instead, you guys increased. That shows how ready you were for an exodus. So I want all these places to do well. A little concerned of the direction of Twitter, though, because here is this woman discussing her views on free speech. And again, she talks about not the user, not what you, the people, want, what the giant advertising corporations want.
If I were to say, yes, you can influence me, that would be wrong. That would be very wrong. Because that would be a diminishment of freedom of speech.
But I want to be specific about influencing. It's more of an open feedback loop for the advertising experts in this room to help develop Twitter into a place where they will be excited about investing more money. Product development, ad safety, content moderation.
Yeah, because that's how you're going to create the best platform. Is with a group of advertising executives deciding to sanitize it and shape it in the image of what they would like to see. A bunch of multimillionaires in a room at a board meeting. That's what's going to make Twitter the cool place that kids want to go.
Yeah, exactly. Pharmaceutical company.
Yes, exactly.
I'm sure what they want is what the Pope said and what her policy was at NBC Universal.
Yes, exactly. I want a Johnson & Johnson social media site.
She basically, I mean, that's actually making the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, because Elon Musk was right. If I allow you to influence me, that would be wrong, because then that would diminish freedom of speech, which is what I'm all about. And she's like, well, hold on, don't think about it like that. And then she describes the diminishment of freedom of speech in a different way and says it's okay.
Yes.
Like, that's the part where I'm like, she does get it.
Right.
She understands exactly what she's saying. Content moderation for ad-friendly. Make it into a place they feel comfortable. They have the power, not you.
And by the way, when it's only a few companies, just to give you some inside baseball here. Matter of fact, we can include on Mug Club why the left is upset.
Yeah.
Just to give you a little bit of inside baseball. First, let me go to the difference between Turkish government, Twitter, and Rumble. But I think this is pretty important. This is what we lived through with YouTube, by the way, and this is why I am so vehement in the fact that the right needs to be. They need to divest. They need to uncouple from big tech companies. And I don't care how you do it. Is when you have, let's say, 5 companies. 5 companies basically are in charge of all media, right? You have NBC Universal, you have ABC Disney, you have Comcast, Viacom, News Corp. Let's call it 5, 6, 7 companies. Okay. And then they are trying to get into your news feed, into your whatever, your algorithmic feed. Now, it's not even a news feed on Facebook, on YouTube. Guess what? They spend the advertising dollars. So now you have a platform that is beholden to 5 or 6 companies who, by the way, have regular meetings in a room with each other. It doesn't require a crazy conspiracy theory to say, hold on a second, it seems like these companies may be in cahoots if they all removed Alex Jones the same day. So then these people dictate the advertising. Remember, we had a conversation with CEOs, executives at YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, there's no community guidelines, but strikes. And we would say, though, you're not advertiser friendly, but we're creating this new rule, borderline content. And I said, hold on a second. You are talking to an advertiser on YouTube. They said, what? I said, it's one of the only places that I spend money to advertise our channel. Hey, subscribe to my channel. I said, and I can't actually target or reach people who I would like to reach. For example, I would like to reach people who are interested in the Second Amendment. And by the way, I would like to be able to determine who advertises on my channel. I said, would this be a solution to YouTube? They said, not advertiser friendly. I said, well, what about firearm company? Well, we can't do that. Okay, well, what about companies that might sell firearm accessories? No. Okay, what about companies that may be, for example, particularly freedom-minded? Well, those companies don't exist. Hold on a second. How about you create a solution where you pair my channel with companies who would actually pay a premium to advertise in that 18 to 45 demo and recognize that these people are more conservative? We've ended up doing that with sponsors who, by the way, never leave because of your purchasing power. YouTube said, well, that's not really how it works. What does that mean? It means the advertising is algorithmic and it is determined by a handful of companies, all of whom are beholden to places like the WEF and international conglomerates and the ESG score and woke bullshit. They're not interested in actually pairing advertisers with the right users. They want to manipulate and engineer the behavior of the users. And that's why I have a problem when conservatives say, well, if you can't beat them, join them. No. If you can't beat them, try harder and make them wish they picked somebody else. I've been on both sides of advertising and receiving advertising dollars. Now, we have not received advertising dollars on YouTube or any major social media outlet for, is it 4? Is it 5 years now? I know how it works. It's a rigged game. And so when someone is saying the people who are rigging the game need to be granted more power, that's a problem. And it's very clear with this lady's language that that's what she's interested in doing. And also, just to be clear, here's another misstep with Twitter that I'm concerned with. Son of a bitch! I completely forgot about that one. Good for you, Tim.
He didn't.
He drank his drank his coffee this morning. So, at the behest of the Turkish government, and I think Elon has largely been a positive force, certainly for Twitter.
Correct.
But Twitter agreed to restrict access to some tweets from the Turkish government at their request during the presidential election. And this is actually a quote responding to online criticism from Matt Iglesias. Musk tweeted, "Did your brain fall out of your head, Iglesias? The choice is have Twitter throttled in its entirety or limit access to some tweets. Which one do you want?" Now, this is important because we have a direct contrast. And again, I would love to see Twitter do well and I would love to see Rumble do well. But people are asked, you want to know why we partnered with Rumble? And you want to know what excites me with Rumble? If you have kids, they should leave, okay? Because I'm just going to... It's like Donald Trump is this with the vote. It's the fuck you platform. So when Elon Musk says, he's basically saying, I was just doing my job. You said you would kill me last. He says, what are you stupid? Did your brain fall out of your head, Iglesias? The choice is to have Twitter throttled in its entirety or limit access to some tweets. Which one do you want? Rumble had that exact same scenario. Yeah. They were demanded by France to remove Russia Today as a channel or any of its content from their platform, and they said, okay. Well, then you're just going to have to remove Rumble as a platform. They issued a statement saying, recently, the French government demanded that we remove certain Russian news sources from Rumble. As part of our mission to restore a free and open internet, we have committed not to move the goalposts on our content policies.
Here. Yeah.
So one response from Elon Musk, what would you have us do? Exactly what Rumble did. Rumble said, all right, the French government, how about that? Okay, how about, I'm sorry, I'm at this and this. That's what Rumble said. And as a consequence, Rumble was banned, at least for a period of time. I don't know if they still are.
Right.
In all of France, you cannot set the precedent. Do you have any idea what that's going... You're kowtowing to the Turkish government? What's going to happen with China?
Yeah, exactly. By the way, this is during an election season. Like, you don't do what the government wants you to do in a tight election. No. It means censoring certain points of view just because you think a little bit of Twitter is better. No, it's not. You know why? A little bit of Twitter makes you think that there is honesty.
Right.
If you've got Twitter still there, you're thinking, okay, well, Twitter's still the free speech platform.
That's
maybe
right.
I didn't hear the story about them banning a couple of accounts or maybe these dozens of tweets maybe I didn't hear all that, and I think I'm getting the full truth, but I'm not. It's where we are today. It is the blueprint for censorship. Golly, did I have a stroke? Did I, Joe Biden?
You maybe did.
I don't know, man. I just think you should have some Twitter.
Yeah, I think you should have some Twitter.
Maybe.
Oh, what are we doing?
And Texas is bigger than France anyway.
Yeah,
no, they
exactly.
really don't. They don't matter. It's not enough people to matter. Make
France?
a difference. No, they don't make a difference. They don't make a difference.
They're too busy making wine and eating cheese.
No, they'll come
baguettes.
begging for Twitter soon. I mean,
yeah, Rumble. You mean?
Rumble.
Yeah,
They come
they still have
begging
Twitter.
for Rumble, and yeah, of course they still.
Look, you can't do this. You can't kowtow to these other governments. And I understand what some of you are going to say, like, well, hold on a second, Russia Today is partially funded by the Kremlin, Russia propaganda. Okay, sure, but again, the point of view from Rumble is also anti-Russia Today channels are allowed on Rumble.
Right.
It's an open discourse. What's more damaging than is lies or mistruths are half-truths. And that's what Twitter is doing with, I'm using the word correctly, being in collusion to a degree with the Turkish government. So it doesn't just exist in this vacuum of, well, hold on, is there... No, we have precedent. Rumble told France to go screw themselves. And Elon Musk is already starting from the point of view of, well, what do you want? Some Twitter or no Twitter? I think as it relates to Turkey, they get no Twitter. How about that? You know what? If you don't finish your dinner, you don't get your snow cone. Okay, Turkish government, you don't allow freedom for everyone, then you get no Twitter. That needs to happen enough where these governments then understand, hold on a second, we can't just keep calling the shots. Do you have any idea how many tweets that I have or did for a long time that are not available in Germany because it's in violation of German speech laws?
Or Pakistan, man. They
Pakistan.
Positively want to hang you over
I just think Pakistan should have no Stephen Crowder Twitter. You can follow me at S. Crowder. Let me know if in Pakistan you get any of it. I would be very surprised.
But basically, look, if Twitter had taken a stand, this Elon, look, this is the playbook. If you take a stand in Turkey and say, no, we're not self-censoring, either the government backs down and you win, free speech wins, or you get banned and the people see it in broad daylight.
Exactly.
That their government is banning speech, and maybe that leads to change in the government, not the appeasement strategy that you just put in play.
That's good.
That's absolutely right. And I think that combined with the fact that this woman is very clearly more interested in creating Twitter and social media platforms and the new world, because let's be honest, that's where people often live. That's where people exchange information. It's a digital town square. She wants to rebuild that in the image of what advertisers want as opposed to what you, the user, the viewer wants. You are true north. You are true north. The moment that you say, you know what, we're done, I'll go retire and I'll go do something else. We've talked about this. Half the stuff that you see here was pitched at some point when I was at Fox News or at any of the networks, and no, that's never going to work. You have decided to make it work because you are true. And I think that's why this show is very different, and that's why we're really happy to be in a partnership with Rumble, and I hope that Twitter gets their shit together, and I hope that there's healthy competition. But right now, as it relates to Yakarino, I'm not seeing it. We're going to continue this, by the way, on Mug Club. I have a hiccup here. I have one of those chest bubbles.
Do it.
At loudwithcrowder.com/Mug Club. Again, you can send your proof of any right-wing streaming purchase, subscription to freemugclub at loudwithcrowder.com, and we will send you 3 months free. Those emails are going out, so check your email. You're not getting any other spam. You will get a promo code. Boom, 3 months free. If you don't like it, you can bounce. You get this show. You get the Friday show. You get Nick DiPaolo, and you would get right now, if you're on Rumble, just click that button right there. Click it right there. That button right there. I know. Oh, it stings. Click it. And you get to continue watching the show every day, another 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how long the bathroom break is for Pops Crowder, who has the prostate the size of a grapefruit. YouTube, not thank you, but Rumble, thank you. YouTube, piss off, powered by Rumble. We'll continue this.